Hi there. You're listening to the Pork Clark podcast. Been a while. Been a while since I've done the podcast. Been on a hiatus for a while, if you will, a little break. But thought I'd do one today. Probably not the best idea, but there's a lot of things that I want to say. A lot of things that I'm trying to work out in my head now as I go along with this. Things that I want to express about the awful events of last night in Manchester. The most recent terrorist attack. The second terrorist attack this year here in the United Kingdom. And the worst one in over 12 years. The worst terrorist attack since the 7/7 bombings in London in 2005. Just like everyone else, I guess, I've done my little statuses on social media, on Facebook and Twitter and such, although I don't quite know what that actually achieves. Nothing, if you ask me, but we just do it now, don't we? We do it. And we just seem to accept that this is a part of our lives now. That, these things happen. That terrorism happens. It's been happening for a long time. In fact, I can't even really think of a time now when you didn't turn on the news or go on the internet and see a story about some form of terrorism somewhere in the world. And it always hits you probably hard the most when it's in the country that you live in. But when it's children, man, when it's children, like it was last night in Manchester, the youngest of which was 8 years old. That's a whole other level. That's a new low for this radical Islamic crazy ideology. That's a whole new low right there. And I'm having difficulty right now expressing it because I could easily get really, really fucking angry right now about it. Because like you, like every normal, sane, decent thinking person, I'm really angry about it. And you know what's weird is that I didn't get angry this morning when I heard about it. I actually heard about it last night before I went to bed. There was a breaking news story. Something had gone on in Manchester. An explosion maybe. And you just kind of think, okay, fireworks or something, whatever. I didn't really give it a second thought. I went to bed. I got up this morning. Turned on the radio. Main news. The main news on BBC Radio 4 this morning. And even then, though, even though I knew what had happened, I was having my breakfast. I was getting ready for work. I was getting my coat on. I had a bus to catch. And then when I finished work, I talked to a friend of mine and she told me about it. She says, "Are you aware of what's happened?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." But even then, it didn't sink in. And it wasn't till I got home about lunchtime that it really... Sorry, that's just a text message from someone. I'll get back to them later. It wasn't till I got home at lunchtime that it really hit me that, okay, this is probably the worst one yet. I mean, it's all bad, but this is, like, as I said, this is a new low. A new low. I just can't understand anyone. Anyone's mind who operates like that. Anyone's mind anyone that's wired up to want to go out and inflict harm onto children like that, just kids, I don't get it, man. Just tell me. You know, and one of the reasons I stopped doing these podcasts for a while, one of the reasons I put them on hold, put them on a hiatus, if you will, was because I wanted to take a break from the whole sort of political arena. I'd gotten very politicized, if that's even a word, very heavily into my politics ever since the US presidential election last year. And Brexit and so on and things like that, and I think I was starting to be defined by it, by some of my my friends, some of my family. Some people were starting to just know me, define me solely for my politics, and they were starting to box me in to either being, you know, conservative, right wing, Republican, or something. No one would ever box me into being a liberal, I can tell you that. But I was starting to get boxed in as a Republican, as a conservative, mostly down to my support for Donald Trump, I guess. So I decided that, okay, look, whatever. I mean, they're going to think what they're going to think of me. They think I'm right-wing, they think I'm right-wing. Okay. But I'm just going to distance myself from politics and maybe work on another podcast that I was working on. I was working on something that had nothing to do with politics at all. Certainly was nothing like this, like what I'm doing now. But that's kind of fallen by the wayside due to technical difficulties and such. But anyway, look, I don't even know why I'm telling you that. But I decided to leave the podcast world, talking politics and such, because I got sick of the tribalism of it. And being boxed in, as I say. But also the tribalism was starting to drive me nuts. You either a Ramona, or you either for Brexit. And if you voted Brexit, you probably were either uneducated and didn't know what you were voting for. I did know what I was voting for. Or you were a racist bigot. Well, I'm not racist and I'm not bigoted. So, you know, or you're a Trump fan, or you're a Clinton fan, or you're a Corbynista, or a Blairite, or you're for Mayism, or Cameronism. All these little taglines, all these little boxes. And you know what I realised today, guys? You know what I realised today? You know, none of it matters. It's all crap. And this election that we've currently got going on in this country is a joke. Because none of them, neither the Conservative Party, or the Labour Party, or the Liberals, or the Greens, or UKIP, none of them are going to do the one thing that matters, which is to protect us. To protect you and me and our children. And if they can't do that, what's the point in voting for any of them? So, for the first time in my life, I'm not going to vote in this up and coming election. Just, no. Why bother? Why bother? Because if she, our Prime Minister, you know, if she can't protect us, or the government can't protect us, can't protect our children, then what's the point? And that half-wit who's running, you know, the Labour Party into the ground, I mean, he probably supports the terrorists because, you know, he's a big advocate of the IRA and Hamas. So, you know, none of them appeal to me. None of them. So no, I'm not going to vote, and people can say, well, if you don't vote, you don't get a say. I have a say, believe me. No one's going to stop Paul Clark from having his say. Do you understand? Do you understand? Because that's not going to happen. I'm going to have a say, and my say is I ain't voting for none of them. None of them. Because they're both a bunch of half-wits as far as I'm concerned. They're both a bunch of half-wits. One's bad and the other's worse. So forget them. Forget all of them. I could care less. I could care less. And no disrespect, but I could care less if you agree with me or disagree with me on this. Because I just wanted to vent. I just wanted to get this off my chest. So I don't even really care if this podcast makes sense, if I'm speaking clearly or precisely enough. Don't care. Just saying how I feel right now. Not, you know, not playing radio games here. Not, not... This isn't scripted, So, it is what it is. But, I mean, you just think that if these people can do that to kids, what's going to stop them? Who is going to stop them? Jeremy Corbyn with his pacifist views? Theresa May and her plan for Brexit? Brexit means Brexit? It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. We voted to leave the European Union. Let's just have done with it already. But can we just stop the tribalism there? Can we just stop being either radical left-wing or radical right-wing, and all of us just come together and actually protect each other, protect the children, protect the country from just a bunch of crazies, from radical Islam. And, because I don't want to start getting messages from people saying, well, why don't you talk ill of Christianity? I don't want to start getting boxed into being, a Muslim basher, Islamophobic or whatever they call it, which I think is a load of rubbish anyway, by the way, that word. I don't want to get boxed into being that, because I'll happily bash Christians, or Jews, or Sikhs, or religion. All of it is crap. Never get into religion, because it's all rubbish, it's all make-believe, it's all hocus pocus. I'm so glad, that my fixation and my sort of obsession resides within television and films and books and so on, and not within some phony, baloney religion. So glad about that. So glad that I get more obsessed about the latest episode of Doctor Who or something than I do about preaching the words of the Quran or the Bible or some crap. It angers me, and religion has always angered me. Religion, spiritualism, just enough. Just stop. Just stop with your phony nonsense that's not real. Your God is not real. Your belief is not real. Get in touch with the real world. Yeah, that's Paul Clark saying that, because believe it or not, I may, it may not seem it sometimes, but I think I am in tune with the real world, and religion's not part of my world. Any religion that either condones sexual exploitation, child abuse like the Catholic Church has done, or even worse, if there is worse than that, and surprisingly there is, because we saw it last night in Manchester, any religion, radicalised Islamic terrorism that condones the death of children, well, yeah, I don't want to be a part of that religion, and I have no problem calling out your religion or anyone's religion for what it is, which is rubbish, which is crap, which is something that should be eradicated from our society. I think if we had religion just rejected in society, bleached out from our history, the world would be a better place. That's my 2 cents. You can agree, you can disagree, you can yell at me, you can do whatever you want to this podcast video, because I don't care, because those are my opinions, and if you like it, you like it, if you don't, you don't. Thanks for listening, and maybe I'll see you again soon. Ta-ra.